All right, so now we've practiced adding rational numbers with the same signs. Let's look at adding two rational numbers that have different signs. It says to represent 5 and 1/3 plus -1 and 1/3 using arrows on the number line. Okay, so we actually have a lot of space here. I'm already hinting at what clue and what rule we're going to end up with, so excuse the zooming in. Okay, so we need to represent these two numbers on the number line. Well, we just did that, so let's go ahead and apply what we did on the first few number lines here. So we have 5 and 1/3. Where is our pen always going to start? You're right, at 0. So now I'm just going to draw a dot because I know you can't see my pen. But we're now going to go 5 and 1/3 in the positive direction. So 1 jump, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then I know 1/3 is just a little bit to the right of 5. Okay, now that we have done that, we need to add a -1 and 1/3. Well, since it's negative, we have to move it in the negative direction. So I'm going to take my pen from where I left off and go ahead and jump one hole and then 1/3. Okay, and let me go ahead and highlight this so you can see. Oh, that was not a good color to choose. So we can see where we landed. Okay, so we actually ended up on a +4. I find that interesting. What do you notice happened to our answer? Or actually our process to get our answer? Well, it was an addition problem, and yet we ended up with a smaller answer than what we started with. How else could we have got this answer? Well, I know that we are moving backwards along the number line, and so we could say that we are taking away from 5 and 1/3. And if we are taking away 5 and 1/3, how else could I write that as an operation? You're right. To take away means to subtract. So we actually ended up subtracting 5 and 1/3 minus 1 and 1/3 to get a +4. Okay, so what sign was on our answer? Well, it was a +4. Well, that makes sense because if we look at our positive number, our positive arrow, sorry, I'm about to pick the same color. The positive arrow is significantly longer than the negative arrow, right? So I just highlighted, and you can see that the light blue is significantly longer than the green. Okay, so there were more jumps that needed to happen for our answer to end up being way over here on the negative side, right? They had to go even past 5 and 1/3 and then some to get to this negative side of the number line. So what rule can we make about adding numbers with different signs? So let me zoom back out again because I already had it typed up for us. So I want you to go ahead and add this to your notes. When adding rational numbers with different signs, we subtract the numbers and keep the sign of the bigger number. I'm sorry, it shouldn't be the bigger answer. It should be the bigger number on our answer. Okay, so just like we saw here, 5 and 1/3 was the bigger number of the two. And since it was positive, our answer was also positive, right? If -1 and 1/3 had a bigger absolute value, right? If it had a bigger distance than the 5 and 1/3, if the number line was bigger, then our answer would have also been negative. Okay, so we know that if the arrow for the negative number is bigger than the positive arrow, then our answer will be negative. In this case, the arrow for the positive number was bigger than the negative arrow, so our answer turned out to be positive. So this is something that we may have used our tic-tac-toe chart for. So I'm just going to redraw it here. Our positives are in a tic-tac-toe and our negatives are surrounding it. And it's because of these two rows here on the top. If I add a positive with a negative, I am going to subtract. That's what that sign right there is reminding us to do. And if I look at the second row, that is also true. If I have a negative and a positive, then I will also, once again, subtract two numbers. The bottom row, is really discussing what we talked about in the top when we were. Do you think that adding two negative numbers will always give you a smaller negative number? Yes, because just like adding two positive numbers gives us an even greater positive answer, adding two negative numbers gives us an even smaller negative answer because we are moving in the opposite direction of zero, which gives us smaller numbers. So let me write that down. So we have smaller numbers going this way and bigger numbers going the positive direction. Okay, so what do both examples have in common? Well, the arrows are both going the direction of the signs of the numbers. And because they both have the same sign, they continue moving in that same direction, leading to their final answers, either a positive or a negative answer. So I want to stamp this rule as you write this down. When adding rational numbers with the same sign, we add the numbers together and use the common sign for our answer. Okay, you may have seen this in sixth grade with a tic-tac-toe chart, right? And so we know with tic-tac-toe, we want three X's in a row. And now I'm accidentally going to do that. Okay, and so we have this as a mental, like, kind of refresher from what we learned in sixth grade. And so we're going to talk a little bit more about it, especially when we look at the next topic. But I want to draw your attention that when we have two negative numbers, we are going to add them together. So we have two negative numbers, we are going to add. So we're going to try a few practice problems here in a second. The top section, when we were adding signs that were the same, so two negative numbers added together, we are going to add and keep the sign of the bigger number. So that tic-tac-toe is just another visual to help us remember what we do when we come up to adding numbers with different signs or even with the same signs. All right, let's do some more practice.